And this is Chris from Brothaspeak Podcast, where we talk to the innovative, the daring, and the bold, providing informative topics for the Black LGBT. And I have a special guest, and the reason why I say special because it's not often that I actually get somewhat of a political figures on the show, and I definitely wanted to make sure this person comes on the show, and he accepted, so I was very happy about that. The State Representative, which is, by the way, I definitely wanted to see, can we, a little more information regards exactly what a State Representative does and what their take on today's political environment really is, and what the thing is that a lot of people should know about why it's so important to be a part of the midterms. And definitely when it comes to the midterms, it's one of those important things that seems to be overlooked, and I want to make sure I kind of chime in on that. He's definitely part of the Democratic Party. It's his actually city of residence and is in West Park, and also he's as a Democratic deputy whip from 2016 to 2018. Graduated from Florida A&M University in biochemistry and molecular biology. That's interesting. You gotta elaborate on that one. You gotta elaborate on that one. Born in October the 12th, I'm the 19th, so we're both Libras, I assume so. So definitely he definitely have a lot of affiliations, a lot of highlights within his career, and I definitely want him to kind of chime in and help us out. And please welcome Mr. Representative Shevrin D. Jones. How you doing, Shevrin?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's good to be on here with you today, and thank you for having me.
No problem. I thank you for accepting. I really appreciate to have like I said, someone of a political stature on the show. Kind of gives more information in terms of especially what's going on, since we only got 45 days until the midterms. Am I right?
That's correct. 45 days until we go into the midterm election. You're correct.
All right. Well, you know what? I want to kind of get people to understand why is it so important, especially around this particular time, and also people for the LGBT community? Because the thing about it is a lot of people, for myself, I have not heard much. Pertaining to some of the concerns and some of the things out there for the LGBT. So we definitely want to chime in on that. But as far as your take on the political environment right now, what is that?
Oh, well, right now, if we look at the political environment, I think we all are aware that our democracy is at stake because it's where it's being challenged. But just because our democracy is being challenged does not mean that we cannot come or recover from where we are right now. We've been here before. We've seen it before, whether it was through the civil rights movement or other movements that have taken place over the years. We always have recovered from them, or we've come out on top from them. But it should always be some type of learning experience. Some people look at this and say, "Well, this is Trump's time," or Trump has totally hijacked our country, and his people have hijacked our country. But I beg to differ in that area. I think this is the prime opportunity where people have become more aware, people have become more energized, and people are starting to galvanize within their communities to use this as a teachable moment for us to move forward in a direction of saying that, no, you will not hijack our democracy. No, you will not hijack our country. And there are issues that are not being spoken about in Washington or even within our local levels because of this political climate, where people are saying, that's fine. If you don't want to talk about those issues and you don't want to invite my group to the table, whether it's Black, LGBTQ, Muslim, or whoever it is, if you don't want to invite us to the table, we will ensure that we remove you from the table because we want to make sure that we're inclusive. So that's why it's important that individuals move in the direction of becoming more engaged. We can't sit on the sidelines. No one is allowed to sit on the sidelines, especially at this time and juncture within our political climate.
You know, when it comes to sitting on the sidelines, I'm very, very happy you spoke about that. A lot of people are still mad about what happened with Hillary. A lot of people are still mad at what happened with Bernie Sanders. And so we still got those people who are still living in the past. I hate to say it, but it's true. A lot of them really feel as though they were given a short end of the stick. So a lot of them really walked away with a sort of a very disappointing taste in their mouth with the Democratic Party. And some may not necessarily choose to even be a part of the vote. What do you say to that?
Well, listen, I never want to take people's emotion for granted and say to just get over it, because that was tough for all of us. But what I will say is that we can't stay there because if we stay there, we cripple ourselves and we affect what can happen or what needs to happen. We understand that what took place, but we also need to recognize that, you know what, we're not going to win them all. And when we don't win them all, what do we need to do? What can we learn from what we lost to gain later? And that's what people have to understand. People don't understand by you sitting home, you elect people like Trump, and that's what's important. And I don't want to make this political time about Trump, because if we make this about Trump, we lose again.
Right.
We have to make this. We cannot run elections. We can't run anything anti-Trump. We have to run this. We have to run our elections knowing pro-movement, pro-LGBTQ, pro-black, pro-white, pro-Muslim, ensuring that all communities are covered, and making sure that no one within inside those groups feel as if they're not being included in what needs to happen to move our country and our communities forward.
You know, when it comes to the message for Democrats, some people have even said, what is the message? What is the message? And it's always kind of good to hear what is the message, because sometimes messages change, quite frankly. And I do see that there's a lot of things that are still on the table, especially when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to, the right to choose, the right to marry, when it comes to voters registration, when it comes to even women's right to choose, those particular things. What is the current message for Democrats from your standpoint?
I think we should listen to what former President Obama said about the Democratic Party. He said that, we don't need to sit here and wait, because, one thing we do know is that the Democratic Party has always been the party of the people that wants to ensure that individuals have health care, wants to ensure that our public education systems are taken care of, our teachers are paid fairly, to ensure that individuals can live a life of economic dignity. So that if we wait for a perfect message, we're going to be waiting for a long time. I think what we need to be trying to figure out is what is the type of unified front that we can come up with, that as we all move forward, that the messaging is clear, and that is that we won't accept what's being given to us right now. And I think that's what we need to move forward on. But the message cannot be anti-Trump. And if that's the message, we're going to lose.
Also, I think some of the things that really has been showing a lot of fire for the Democrats is the progressive movement. So I'm not sure. And of course, Mr. Andrew Gullum, who's going for the position of governor within the state of Florida, he is up for the progressive movement also. What is your take on the progressive movement? And are you a progressive as well, or no?
I'm a progressive.
Okay.
I'm not afraid to say it. I will say, even as a progressive, I can't become so progressive that I'm not allowing myself to hear what everyone else is saying, and I think that can become very, very dangerous. Yes, do I believe in Medicare for all? I believe in that. Do I believe that we need to move in a system to ensure that our teachers are paid a fair wage? I believe that. Do I believe in $15 an hour minimum wage? I believe in that. Do I believe that that big businesses need to share with our small businesses to ensure that everyone can thrive? I believe that. But I also believe that everyone has economic responsibility, that everyone needs to play a role to ensure that if we're trying to build this society of economic dignity, we all must play a role in doing it. It can't be you fight for me while I sit on the sidelines and do it. It must be while you fight, I'm going to advocate also to make it happen, so we can all have this. We can live in this world with some type of economic dignity and continue to fight for each other, so we can live in this world live in a better world that's better for me than what it was when I came here for future children, my future children and nephews and everyone else to come.
Now, when it comes to being a state representative, I really don't think a lot of people understand what's the day in the life of a state representative. What exactly is it? Because I'll be honest with you, if I was someone to tell me, I don't know either what to tell them. So can you help us understand what is the role and what's the day in the life of a state representative?
A state legislator is an elected official who works for a lawmaking body in his or her state. So the state representative is a part-time job in some states. More specifically in Florida, is definitely a part-time job. We are part of the legislative branch, so which means that we are the body that creates the laws that are trickled down to the cities and counties in which they are to follow, in which the entire state follow. And so that's the basic understanding of what it is. You have 120 House members, you have 40 senators, and that's in Florida, and each of us are given districts, and within those districts, our goal is to bring resources back into our district when we convene for session. And one misconception is people think legislators' main job is to pass bills. That's not true. Our one constitutional duty is to pass a balanced budget.
Okay. That's something new. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, passing a balanced budget is our one. So if we go up to Tallahassee and we're going to do anything else, we're going to have to pass one bill. The Constitution only tells us that we have to pass a balanced budget. That's it.
Wow. So that, okay, so that, all right, I think a little bit, eyes can kind of continue to stay open a little bit more in terms of exactly what is state representatives. Okay, so balance the budget. Interesting. I didn't know that. It's okay. So when it comes to Florida, when it comes to our budget, how is that? Is that challenging, or what have you seen so far?
Oh, well, within my 6 years, it's been interesting because a lot of the main pieces of the budget is education and healthcare. You have Florida, which is almost about an $85 billion budget. And within that $85 billion worth of a budget, majority of it is, how do we take care of the two most important things in our country? Within our state, and that's how we're educating our children, and how we ensure that we have a healthy state.
Now, when it comes to a lot of things seem to be coming up, even locally over here, trying to, provide for the elderly is one of those things. But what now is really coming up is the LGBT elderly. Even right now, they're actually coming up. They're building up homes specifically when it comes to the Pride Center locally down here, specifically for those who are LGBT and elderly. A lot of issues have not necessarily been addressed. This year, it seems to be overshadowed by a lot this year. What is the LGBT community speaking of? What are they saying?
Well, I will say that we have advocates such as in Miami, you have Save Community, you have Save, or you have Equality Florida. These individuals are advocating hard to ensure that in all the LGBTQ community and those who are a part of that community, or even allies of the LGBTQ community, to ensure that those issues are placed on the table. And I'm going to be honest with you. I know our biggest thing now is protecting LGBTQ rights. That's the biggest thing that's on the table, and that's on a national and state level. And then making sure that they don't hijack the rights of people and what they do in their bedroom. And I think that's where we are right now. I think that's where we want to continue to ensure that we continue to elect people who are going to protect the rights of all people. And we want to continue to elect people to ensure that, just like you just said, the senior LGBTQ community that might be a conversation that's not being had, that we want to elect people who are going to listen to those issues and hear out, what's happening, what are we doing for our aging LGBTQ community, which is a topic that I have not heard. And this is probably, to be honest with you, the first time I've heard it in a long time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, definitely is something that, especially like I said, I'm over here in Wilton Manors territory in Fort Lauderdale, and definitely I see what some communities such as the Pride Center and what they're doing for specifically the LGBT elderly. And so that seems to be something that I myself, to be honest with you, have not heard it until this year myself. So that's one of the things I've definitely been understanding. But you know what? I hate to sometimes clump all LGBT together, because there's a lot of issues that African American LGBT face, not necessarily so much as every other portion of the LGBT community. Would you agree with that?
I agree with you. Yes.
Some of the issues I would think would be homeless, and also especially in Miami, to be able to find jobs, etc. Seems to be. Now, again, we're talking about a community that seems to have a lot of disposable income, very well educated for the most part, but there are some that still are kind of left behind a little bit. Has any of those issues ever come up at all?
Yes. Let me say that. But the question, not the question, the thing that I am looking forward to is to where the Black LGBTQ community it move into a direction to where we say, where we can stop people from saying, well, we know it's different in the black community. Yes, it's true, but this is an opportunity for us to begin to educate the African American community, which is becoming younger. And as it becomes younger, people are becoming more progressive on this conversation. And so I don't want us to continue to get lost in saying that we know it's difficult in your community. And that's what I've heard a lot of people say. It doesn't have to be. It can be a conversation that can be had, because if I put 100 people down a line and went one by one and asked them a question about who in their family member is within the LGBTQ community, if any of them say that no one, they're lying.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Every last one of us have a common thread, whether that's in the church or the synagogue. We all have someone within our community, in our family, who is a member of the LGBTQ community, period. And so that's why people need to become educated. Churches need to become educated, because pastors also need to understand that you can preach your message, but you don't know who these individuals are going home to. And so that's why people have to be careful at what your message is that you're sending out. I mean, yeah, and I know a lot of people want to preach their fire, brimstone messages, and that's if that's how you get down, congratulations. Yeah, but I do want people to understand one other thing. That one thing that we are taught as Christians, as myself, to do is love. That's it. You know, Jesus didn't go around asking people, "What's your lifestyle?" You know, what type of person? Who are you? Are you gay? Jesus didn't do that. I mean, his biggest thing was to ensure that we love one another. And I can go on that topic all day long,
right?
To share about that, but it's no need. Love is where it all stops. Start in, and that's what people need to. That's what people need to understand, and stop trying to go around giving people lectures. Deal with your own life first.
So, as of this year, right, the next 45 days, why are midterms? Because a lot of people really don't vote in the midterms. They don't vote in the midterms. Why is it so important to elect and actually go to the polls for the midterms?
Well, first, all politics is local. The midterm election is where a lot of local races are taking place, and most of your gubernatorial races are taking place. This is the precursor for the general. We now know at the midterm election how our general election will look, and it's important that we get a good showing now in preparation for November 2020 to let the opposing party know that people are energized, the people are galvanized, and they are about to proactive to ensure that we take back our country and take back our communities. And I think this is the precursor. This is going to tell how all of this will play out in November of 2020.
You know, I really don't know how has Florida been in the midterms. Are we really? Because I know in general a lot of population doesn't really come out as much. Is this? I know with Obama, maybe it was a little bit different. Was Obama was a little bit more of a turnout, bigger for the midterm elections around the time that he was actually running?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it was. President Obama. That was a huge movement. And this, if you look at Andrew Gillum, his campaign right now, it's about the same. It's about the same showing right now. It's about the same.
Oh, wow. It's about the same. So really, do you guys expect a big turnout around the midterms, correct?
Oh,
okay.
Guaranteed.
Okay, all right. Then therefore, definitely we have to make sure we got to push that message a little bit harder. So right now, in terms of, well, I'm gonna kind of jump back on the progressive moment for just a quick minute, because the minute you mention progressive, people think socialist. And and as much as people don't like to say that word, they feel it has a very nasty word to it. Can you kind of break it down in terms of when people think of that, is not necessarily, or is it that?
Well, first of all, let's be clear on one thing. A lot of people who say the word socialist, they don't even know what a socialist is. Reverend Barber made it very clear at the Congressional Black Caucus. He said it's not socialism. It's a moral social contract rooted in the establishment of justice for all. If you consider Medicare for all, making sure people are healthy, if you consider that socialism, let me even go back. You define socialism and what it means to you. That's rhetorical, right?
Right. Because
all the people who speak of socialism, they're talking about individuals who want everything for free. Well, truth be told, if it's Medicare for all, financially, that saves our state, that saves our country money to ensure that, because if those individuals are going to the emergency rooms to get treated anyway, and they're going to like Memorial or Jackson, the taxpayers are paying for that bill anyway. So why not ensure that individuals are healthy? Or why not ensure that we pay individuals a living wage so they can take care of their families, which will allow us the opportunity to take people, remove more people off of welfare, to give individuals economic dignity in their communities. If that's socialism, that's not socialism. Or paying our teachers at least $50,000 a year to ensure that they can take care of their families and they don't have to work 2, 3, and 4 jobs. Is that socialism? So people, when they speak of socialism, they don't even know what socialism is. You know, individuals speak of it from a standpoint of a talking point when that's not even the case.
Do you think it's also the fault of the Republicans in terms of giving people to misunderstand that particular portion of the movement?
Yeah, and that's what it is. That's why I say they're making this their talking point. They're making socialism their talking point. I mean, because they believe that, well, conservatives believe that socialism is economic irresponsibility, because we're not being responsible when it comes to spending money. And so they feel that when you walk into the area of pouring dollars into helping individuals with more social programming, they believe that that's government giving too much money to people, rather than giving government too much money into systems rather than giving money into people. Whereas the biggest thing is that our goal is to try to empower people to the best way of our ability, so people can live better lives. And so the Republicans, they don't have. I mean, even now, there's no plan when it comes to education. There's no plan when it comes to our healthcare system. The Republicans have shown that for the past 20 years, and that's why it's time for us to move into a different direction. So this socialism conversation is them just trying to create a political talking point that's not real.
Now, I did an interview not that long ago, because what we're beginning to see more and more, I believe what was proposed from the Republicans recently was regards to the right to be able to discriminate, or adoption agencies to discriminate against LGBT couples based upon their religious beliefs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought, and I did this podcast about a month and a half ago in regards to this. Now, when it comes to discrimination, now, by the way, when I should say adoption agencies, I'm talking about state-funded adoption agencies. Those who receive state funds, they have the right to be able to choose what particular couple and discriminate based upon their values. And so I'm beginning to see this more. Is this something that's happening more and more in the state of Florida?
We knocked that rule down in Tallahassee as far as individuals being able to discriminate as far as adoption because of religious background. That did not go through. The Senate killed that.
Now, when it comes to the rules, apparently the rules, are they still the same pertaining to LGBT parents to be under one particular, or 2 parents to be able to adopt a child? Is that issue ever coming up at all?
I'm sure we will see it again. I'm sure we're going to see it again. I can guarantee you that.
Okay.
I can guarantee you.
And now, what am I missing? Because I know a lot of people, when it comes to the political the realm, they kind of only see what's happening on television, and that's about it. What are other things that people should be more aware of? What are current issues?
One thing that is not being spoken about that people need to be aware of is that in a few months, we will deal with the census again. And from the census, we will be dealing with redistricting. And so I want people to be very clear that if you want to ensure that we move into fair districts and our districts are drawn appropriately, we should be paying very close attention to what's about to happen in the coming months when it comes to the census and when it comes to redistricting.
Now, when it comes to the census, just to make sure I'm clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, census only comes up every 10 years. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so right now, as far as the Democratic governor's position, is probably more important than ever, because majority of the governors in the state of majority of governors in the entire U.S. are Republican. Correct?
That's correct.
So, I'm pulling out my political ABC, dictionary here. All right, so when So when it comes to having Democratic governors to be able to redistrict, because it's almost like right now the Republicans have been able to choose their voters, and the way they actually
Right.
have things lined up with gerrymandering.
Yeah, gerrymandering is real. But I mean, you have the Fair District Act that was voted on, I think, in 2000. I think it's either 2014, 2016. It was voted on a few years ago, and it called for fair districting. But what does that mean? I mean, we don't know. Florida will find out whether or not we're going to follow that rule in the coming year or so. But I want to make one mention that even you made mention of what we should take a look out for, and along with the census, people should also recognize that right now the federal government has a federal judge out of New York, I believe, just challenged the new census rules that where an individual the citizenship question would discourage immigrants from participating. And so knowing that dilutes the political representation and federal dollars for states that tend to vote Democratic. So that's why I said I want people to understand that. But even in Republican ran legislatures like Florida, stuff like that, what they're trying to do with the census to ensure that individuals are not counted within the census. These are the type of games that the Republicans are playing to hijack our country.
Wow. So they're playing the immigration card again. Okay. This is kind of funny in terms of because we also have a lot of different type of listeners who listen to the podcast. Not only just Black LGBT, but we also have a lot of Latin listeners who also listen to it as well. So when it comes to things that we've already seen, we've seen the damage that the president or current sitting person, I don't want to even say his name, basically have done with DACA. We've seen him already doing with splitting certain families and putting children in these camps, it seems. But at the same time, we still see, at least for me, locally down here in South Florida, I still see a lot of Latin voters, Hispanic voters, still supporting that party. Is that something that you see a lot of still?
But a lot of them are the older Hispanics who are still supporting the party. The younger Hispanics, they're very clear on what's happening politically. You can see them moving away further from the Republican Party.
Well, that's a little refresher, a little breath of fresh air, a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Because a lot of young ones seems definitely have a lot of energy behind them, so they definitely see things definitely changing. So now our last hoorah here. Now people don't really talk about the environment. To me, the environment is still important. Yes, I understand, especially right now, it's been put on the back burner. But being down here in South Florida, definitely there's a lot of still issues pertaining to the Everglades and things of that nature, especially when it came down to the water situation. A few years ago, I believe, there was something that was voted that definitely compromised the quality of our water. Has that been coming up at all or just been overshadowed also?
We don't talk about it enough, but I think people need to understand that environmental issues is a social justice issue, and people need to recognize that the quality of water, that's social justice. The amount of lead that's in water within African American communities, or the lack of fluoride within African American communities. Yeah, those are social justice issues. So people might say, "Oh well, I don't care about the Everglades." "Oh yeah, I don't care about the red tide." You might not care about that. But there are other environmental issues that are social justice issues that people should be aware of, and we should be talking about, especially within communities. If people don't care about anything, we should be talking about like sea level rise. Yeah, it might not affect your community out west, but out east. Yeah, if we don't begin to find a way and look at innovative ways to deal with sea level rise, it's a problem. And I believe some Republicans are starting to see it as a problem, but I just think the environment is a conversation that we have put as last on our list. When truth be told, we should probably move it up a tad bit because it's actually a very important issue.
Right. Now, well, I think the community definitely understands a little bit better in terms of what it is that we should be paying more attention to, and also what things we should, especially for the Black LGBT community. A lot of us, we really, quite frankly, because like I said, I've always thought that our issues were a little bit different than everyone else. But you're right. It shouldn't be viewed as that in terms of like it's a completely separate thing. The reality is the fact that we really have to get a lot of things done. And I know your job even though it's part-time, it sounds like, after understanding that a little bit, is still a tough position. Is that something that you plan on continuing? How long are you going to continue to stay state representative?
I have 2 more years. I'm on my last term. And in the next few weeks, let's see what happens. Stay tuned, Chris.
I will be staying tuned. And I'll make sure you come back here again as a representative for a state representative. That's for sure. So one thing for sure, like I said, I definitely appreciate. We kind of jumped from a lot of issues here, but you know what? I wanted to kind of grab your time because I know it's a valuable time for people to kind of understand. 1, state representative. 2, what things are really on the ballot that really people should be paying more attention to. And census is something that we definitely should not be overshadowing. So people should understand exactly what they're going to be dealing with if they do not vote the correct way. So thank you for a lot of clarification. I really appreciate that. This really helps me a lot in terms of the political environment and giving people some information out there. Now, also, I'm going to definitely put information on our website, also on the podcast highlights in terms of how to get in contact with you, just in case people have any questions. How can people be able to email you, etc.?
They can email me at shevrinjones@gmail.com. But let me spell my name because some people say Shevron or Shevrin. So it's Shevrin, and that's SHEV as in Victor, R as in Ralph, IN, Jones@gmail.com.
Awesome. Any social media?
Social media is Shevrin Jones. Twitter is Shevrin Jones. Instagram is Shevrin Jones.
Awesome. Very simple. Nobody can get confused. All right.
No, you can't get confused, man.
Well, I truly appreciate you, Mr. Shevrin Jones, for coming to the show. And like I said, I'll definitely be following you on those social medias as well. But also, just in case we have any other topics that I definitely believe that your insight would truly help, would you like to come back on the show?
Yep, you call me anytime.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, this is Chris from Brothaspeak Podcast signing off from the State Representative Shevrin Jones, and we truly appreciate him joining us. You guys have a wonderful day.